Passive House certification is like a badge of honor for designers and builders. It requires extreme airtightness and energy efficiency, and it usually involves very thick walls. It's hard enough with new construction, but retrofitting an old building to Passive House standards is no place for sissies. This cabin will get a modified Larsen Truss system, where 12-inch engineered I-joists are fastened to the outside of the walls and roof. Extreme airtightness begins with taping the wall sheathing. Now it's time to thicken the walls and roof. As they work along the wall, Charles repairs nicks in the sheathing tape that occurred during roof construction. Before delivering the I-joists, Tony pre-sinks screws in the flange where the top plate is. The joists sit on a ledger at the bottom and align with the rafters at the top to keep a continuous thermal cavity. To avoid thermal bridging to the inside, the new framing is offset from the existing framing. The wide flanges are screwed into the top plate with 6-inch structural screws. The joist is then adjusted plumb
go towards the front of the house
and screwed into the rim joist. After lunch, they move to the sunny side of the house, where they keep installing I-joists to the outside, skipping over the window openings for now. Cutting the I-joist is done with a couple of saws and a couple of jigs. Notching the bottom is done with a 7¼ inch circular saw, adjusting the blade depth to the flange width. The length of the I-joist is pulled from that notch to the top point of the roof angle. The cutting jig is made with a couple pieces of plywood and a 1x fence. The lower piece sits between the flanges and the upper piece overlays them. The flanges are scribed and the jig is slid over until the lower piece aligns with the flange marks. The angle is the complementary angle to the roof pitch. After the jig is clamped in place, the upper piece acts as a saw guide while the lower piece indicates the cut line. Filling in under the windows uses up some of the short pieces and requires another jig with a 1/4 inch per foot slope. Here, Tony's making one. He has offset the 2 pieces of plywood the distance from the saw blade to the edge of the saw table, and then he screws them together. A scrap of OSB is used for the fence on this jig. Looks like it works. Now they fill in the window framing, resting the notch on the ledger and screwing the flange into the window framing. Because the existing framing and structure is a bit on the wonky side, they run a string line down the walls at the bottom and top. They check along the wall at each joist for variations, and then they adjust with shims. This will give a straight wall when it's time to hang siding. Later, the window opening will be boxed out with plywood, which is shimmed plumb, level, and square. But first, we're going to head onto the roof and see how they pull off that piece of the puzzle in the next video.